Well, we'll take a break, maybe do a little bit more tomorrow or something.
Crystal came here.
When were they having Virginia Wilson? And she's my mother's littlest sister. And now it's your turn. I want you to tell my kids about growing up.
1931. 525-525812. Oh, you don't need my social security number.
No, but my kids would sure like to hear about when you were a little girl growing up, I'm sure.
Well, we'd have to have them around here, and I could tell them all these stories about how Topsy and I used to fight and fuss, and she finally one day we got in a big to-do, and she took out the ranch and she took me down and beat my head on the patio, the rocks in the patio. And I was screaming and crying, Mother came and spanked me!
Well, from some of the tales I've heard, of course I've heard it from everybody but Totsie, but it sounds like she was kind of mean now and then.
Well, and looking back now, she resented me so because she was four and a half when I was born, and so of course most of the attention went to me. And
right.
And I remember what your kids might have done that too. I played outside, but I used rocks as horses and cows.
Yep.
And I had little ranches, and I'd take some sticks and make me a little house, and these gray rocks were horses, and these black rocks were cows. And I just play up a storm.
I remember building ranches out in the salt cedars there at the ranch, and seems to me like we tried to use June bugs and lizards for horses and cows, but they kept running off. So we couldn't build a corral good enough to keep them in.
And out the ranch, of course, by this time I'm 10, 11, 12, I don't know. And on up into teenage, sleeping under the weeping willow. Great. Well, you probably had that in Missouri, I don't know. Big willows.
Oh, yeah.
Come to the ground, and that was I'm going out to the party, because we had to have at that time we had the outdoor.
Sure.
And I always felt like there was a bad Indian was going to get me when I went to the party at night. Of course, there wasn't any bad Indians around. I don't know why.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. The only Indians I remember being at the ranch much was Billy Ware, and he was about as nice a fellow as you'd ever want to meet.
Well, probably because I don't remember Mother reading a lot of stories to me about bad guys or orgs or. So the only thing that I can think was different probably was an Indian or mountain lions.
Yeah.
I used to be afraid of mountain lions, and we didn't have any at the ranch. There was one thing that, and this was, you've probably heard this story a long time too. I don't know, I was 12, 13, and Gary was 7 or 8 or whatever. And we had a Thanksgiving, and Billy Warrow and his wife came down and joined us. But his wife didn't ever get out of the wagon. But Billy took the food out to her, and okay. Of course, old Billy, we grew up with him, and he was part of the family.
Right.
And then late in the afternoon, they decided they'd go home. And the ranch stood here, and you had to go west, straight west, to get over to where they lived, off of our land to the reservation. And I could see that, I can still see that wagon going up, and the sun shining, and they got right at the top of the hill. The sun was just beating down, and they stopped. And Gary and I were outside playing and goofing off, and kept watching them. And they stopped. And they stayed there, and they stayed there. And finally, we went up there. Gary and I went up there to see what the problem was. Billy had stopped long enough for his wife to have a baby. And so we stood there peering over the wagon.
Uh-huh.
Well, she'd had the baby already, so here's this, but it was kind of messy around and everything, but Billy would just take his blanket and put it over her and the baby and the child and the afterbirth. And of course, we were accustomed to cows,
Sure.
horses, or whatever, having babies, and then there's afterbirth, and so we knew there was, from the blood and all that. That didn't bother us, but we knew something had to be done about it.
Yeah.
Got the baby born and everything all taken care of. Billy took off, and I can still see that wagon just going over the hill in the sun shining.
Just took a little stop there to have a baby and then go on about life.
Yeah. So having, and of course I had quite a advantage to some of the teenagers nowadays, or some of the kids, because I knew how babies were made.
Right.
I knew how babies come out, all the way from cats, dogs, calves, colts, and then this little Indian baby. And so when I got to that point, why, nothing to it.
Sure big benefits not being a city kid, isn't there? Well, where were you born? Were you born in Gallup, or
Huh?
what town were you born in?
Farmington.
In Farmington, okay.
And the story there, and of course, it's a story.
Okay.
But Mother had told me a dozen times, lots of times. They had moved to Farmington, see, so Marguerite and Ruth could go to school.
Uh-huh.
Because they didn't have, well, I don't know. See, that at that time, they weren't involved in Gallup yet.
Right.
Daddy was trucking from Crown Point to Farmington.
Uh-huh.
Well, okay, it's Easter Sunday. So Mother quickly got all the girls ready to go to church. And she would tell about hurrying, so because Margaret's hair was real long, and she'd curl it around my finger and around my finger, and here's all these curls. And I said, now don't you run till you get to church, because I want those curls to... Mother, that make a difference. Well, and Ruth, this is Mother's story. She tied it back, and Ed and Topsy, I guess, were little enough it didn't matter. So she sent them on their way. And then she started having pain. So she and Daddy got in the car, and as they went down the road, here's the little girls walking to church, and she waved. This is Mother's words again. She waved at them, and they went on to church, and I went to the hospital, and we went to the hospital, and you were born. So I don't remember that.
Don't remember that part. Well, now when Granddaddy was trucking between Crown Point and Farmington, did he go up through Chaco? Is that the road that he took, or do you remember, or what?
Yes.
Up through Chaco.
I remember one time going with him. In fact, we were all with him. And the truck couldn't make it up the hill, and he'd go a little ways and stop, and we'd all of us kids would get out and put rocks under the wheel so they wouldn't roll back, and he'd go another little ways, and then... But when he was by himself, maybe he didn't go that way.
Must have been a real powerful engine on that truck, huh? Well, where did you go to school?
Where did I go to school?
Yeah.
Gallup.
You didn't get in on going to school up at, where was it, Fence Lake, where Marguerite taught? Where did she teach? Was it Fence Lake?
Hmm?
Where did Marguerite teach? Was it Fence Lake, or do you know?
Seven Lakes.
Seven Lakes, okay. And that was all done for by the time you got there, or what?
Well, this is another story. The kids were going to school at Seven Lakes, and Marguerite was teaching. But it was a bad, bad winter. And there was a lot of snow. And so Mother, and I was a baby, and she couldn't leave me to help the kids get to school. So mother and the baby just moved over to Seven Lakes.
Okay.
And we just lived there then while the kids finished that year.
Uh-huh.
But there again, I don't remember that.
Do you have any tales to tell about playing down in the Kimanola?
Hmm?
See, do you have any tales to tell about playing down in the Kimanola and almost getting washed out?
Oh yeah, we used to play in Kimanola all the time. There was a couple of times that we were playing Unibel.
Mm-hmm. Now, Unibel was your cousin.
Yeah. I was going to say, do I need to say?
Yeah.
who-
Oh, yeah. Unibel was Uncle Coog's daughter, wasn't she?
Coog and Susie Pitt's
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
And they lived, just, it was about a mile from our house to their house.
Right.
So half a mile, that was no biggie.
Sure.
We'd meet at Kimanola,
Uh-huh.
play in the rocks and play in the sand. And yeah, we nearly got, but we knew it was quicksand, and so we were careful.
Sure.
And there was once, I remember, I think probably it happened a couple of times, but I do remember one time specifically. A big head of water came down. And it was kind of scary,
Uh-huh.
but we weren't in any danger or anything. But standing there watching those rocks tumbling like that, and it's getting higher on the bank and higher on the bank, and oh, where's the frogs?
Well, I guess for the sake of the little kids who've never been out there, we really ought to tell them what the Kimanola was.
Yeah, it was about halfway between the ranches.
Uh-huh. But they're not going to know what it was.
Go away! Oh, they want to know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you because
Well, the Kimanola was at some times of the year it was just an old dry wash, but you could almost always find water in there somewhere.
all right.
And it was really,
I suppose they'll know what a wash is.
yeah, they'll know what a wash is. It was really New Mexico was always very dry when I was growing up, but I'm sure that in years when it wasn't so dry that the Kimanola was really kind of a major water course through there. And it could become a raging river and just nothing flat. And it had very deep walls.
I think it would probably run longer than some of the others
Yeah.
because it was so flat,
Right.
so that whatever water had accrued up here in ponds
Yeah.
and whatnot would just kind of trickle
Yeah.
down. Where and some of the other washes that were kind of from the mountains,
Yeah. But it seems like I can remember that you could always find a little bit of water
Oh, yeah.
in the Kimanola.
yeah. And that was one thing that, in riding after the cows, we always rode out the Kimanola because so much of the time there'd be a stray cow that was kind of sick maybe, but she was down in the wash looking for water
Mm-hmm.
and would find a little puddle.
Well, how did you meet your sweetheart?
Hmm?
How did you meet your sweetheart before you got married? Tell us a little bit about your...
Well, that's the story.
How many boyfriends? Did you have lots of boyfriends when you were growing up?
Yes? No.
Well, which is it?
When I was in the 8th grade,
Okay.
I went to school in Thoreau.
Uh-huh.
I'd been living at the ranch and Marguerite had been teaching me. But when I hit 8th grade, I don't know whether she thought she couldn't handle me or whether they didn't have books or whatever. They sent me in to live at Thoreau with Ruth and Nat.
Uh-huh.
So I went to the Navajo school. It wasn't a Navajo school, it was a public school.
Yeah.
No, it was a
Well, they had both there.
It was a Indian.
Day school.
Hmm?
Was it Was it a day school or the boarding school? But
No, it was day school.
it was an Indian school,
But it was an Indian, sponsored by the Indians.
Yeah, BIA.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And there was an Indian boy that I was really crazy about. To the point, and Nass used to laugh about this so much. Of course, I'd always tell everything that happened. Well, Dina was, I don't know what she was. She must have been three or 2 or, and because of her problem was she sometimes wouldn't swallow, wouldn't eat properly, and food would dribble out. And there was a couple of times, I remember once, but Nass said you did it all the time. I'd be telling the story about, his last name was Begay, but I can't remember his first name. And I'd be telling, and Dina would get something in the mouth and it would dribble out, and I'd take my spoon and there, Chin, it's look at my mouth. And that's
because you were all involved in the story you were telling about your boyfriend.
All I could think about was that boy. Let's see. He never was really a boyfriend. It was just all in my mind.
Sure.
Of course, I was 8th grade, so there was no place in Peru to go to.
That's right.
A date. Except maybe go down to the store and sit and talk, and that's about it. As far as Jim is concerned, and I'm sure you've heard this story. See, I was in high school. Probably a junior, maybe. And Halloween came. And I got hooked up with a bunch of high school kids, and we were going around trick-or-treating, and the guys were throwing rocks at the streetlights. And Jim happened to be one that was throwing rocks. Well, I wasn't very far away, but I wasn't throwing any rocks.
You were just holding their coats?
Huh?
I said, were you just holding their coats?
Yeah. And Daddy came along, and he was the chief of police.
Yeah.
And he arrested the boys. Well, so the rest of us all dispersed and went on home. And I don't remember whether it was that night. I think it was that night, but maybe it was the next day. Telephone rang, and it was Jim asking me. He knew that Daddy was my dad, asking me to say something to him about.
Speak a good word for him.
Yeah. So of course I did. Well, that didn't mean anything to Daddy. He went ahead, and there was no charges to press. There was 8 or 10 boys that he picked up, and he just reprimanded all of them, and probably told their parents and sent them home. But he did mention that Jim seemed like a pretty good kid. But that was all he said about it. But I was still very infatuated. And I don't know, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, there was a football game, and I went up to the game. And here's people, bleachers are completely full, and I'm walking along trying to find a seat. Okay, I could see one way up there, and I got up there and I sat down. Who was I sitting beside but Jim Wilson? Well, we visited and talked, and I got acquainted with him and whatnot. And I don't know, I guess it went from there.
When did you get married?
When?
Yeah.
June 28, 1949.
Mm-hmm.
48.
48, okay.
Marvin and Marguerite stood up with us.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that Jim worked for Uncle Coog. Was that right after you got married, or?
He was working for the railroad when we got married.
Okay.
But he didn't much like it, but then it was a job. And then because you guys were at
Hart Butte.
Hart Butte and Marvin and Marguerite at the ranch, and we got the ranch, and so we got hooked up with Cook, and he said he was looking for a hand. Well, horses and cows and ranching and whatnot was really Jim's first love, and so and we didn't have any kids, and no debt. We had won that car, so we did have a car. No, I guess we had traded.
Yeah, you didn't have a car before you went to work for Coog, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. We had that old Model T that we traded a cow and calf for.
Yeah.
One of my cows and calves that Daddy gave me when I was still living at home.
Yeah.
And we went to work for Coog. That's another thing that when I was 3 or 4, Daddy was chief of police, and his second in command, vice chair, no,
Undersheriff.
undersheriff. Huh, I can't say his name now.
Well, I know Bobcat was an undersheriff for a while, and
This was a Italian.
Mickey Malicka.
I don't think it was Mickey.
Okay.
For my birthday.
Well, I run out of ideas.
For my birthday, like I say, when I was out, he brought me a Jersey calf. We lived at 203 East Logan, and he brought that little old calf up there and brought it in the house, and of course I was just ecstatic. I thought that was wonderful. Mother didn't think too much about having a calf in the house, but and I do remember it had the scours a little bit, but I didn't mind cleaning up for it.
Sure.
And then we took it out and put it in there was an old falling down garage.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it, but I do remember some of the friends. Well, we lived there at 203 East Logan, and we moved to the other house that you know about. 2 or 3 days, about a week after the Second World War started.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what time that would be, but it was December.
That would have been December 15th or so, 1941.
But up until then, see, we lived at this other house, and there was lots of other kids that down the hill, and like this is the block, and our house was here, and down this part of the block were twins, Jerry and Vera Gehrig. And the house had a big brick house and had a rock wall. And we used to play on that rock wall.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the house had a big open porch, and that was our stage. We would be actresses, actors, and all that. And then the house over here on this one lived another Joey Vidal. In fact, he's still doing insurance in Gallup. And we were all one.
I went to school with his son, Billy.
In fact, he's the one that shot his finger off.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, back behind the houses was just a rocks and where the Indians used to be and whatever. We used to go back there and just play with the prairie dogs, or and let's see, there was Jerry and Vera, Barbara Stanwyck, me, and Joy, And there was a Mexican boy with us, but I don't remember his name. We were all just goofing around, and Joey found a .22 pistol stuck underneath some of the rocks. You know, and we all looked at it and ooh, wow, and whatnot. And it's old, it don't work, nothing to it. Put his finger over it, pull the trigger,
Blew his finger off.
blew his finger off. So here's all this mess of kids rushing back to somebody's house with blood running down his hand, and anyway. But that was, I don't know, I couldn't have been very big.
Yeah. Well, Gallup was a pretty rough town, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
When were they having the miner strikes and stuff in there? Do you remember those at all?
That was before my
That was
time.
before your time?
So I don't know what happened.
Yeah. I'd heard tales about it, but
Huh?
I said I've heard stories about it, and I've talked to Bobcat about it a little bit.
Well, it seems as though there was the story that I've heard, and I can't remember. Daddy used to talk about it a little bit, but he'd always say he didn't know enough to.
Uh-huh.
Nowadays I can look back and think what he was saying, it's not important enough
Yeah.
to remember, and you don't need to know.
Yeah.
That the people that owned the mines, and they had supplied the place for the workers to live, and their wages, I don't know what their wages, but
Hmm.
the unions were so insistent they were going to unionize the whole thing. Well, I know that Daddy and Bobcat didn't, because they said that the unions were just a communist takeover.
Well, I think they were at the time to a big extent.
Well, what does that mean? Just like they are nowadays.
Yeah.
Power,
Yep.
power, power. You can call me a union or you can call me a communist, but I'm in charge.
Yep. Power and money.
Yeah.
Well, after you and Jimmy got after you left Uncle Coog's employ,
After
well,
what?
I said after you quit working for Uncle Coog, didn't he go to work for the seismograph crew then? And you traveled around quite a bit then, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Well, looking back, I can't really say I liked the paycheck,
Yeah.
but as far as moving, I wasn't one to. It would have bothered Milma, could have never handled that, because she wanted a house
Right.
and be able to decorate it and whatnot. I was never raised with anything like that, so I didn't care. And
Sure.
I did enjoy the moving around, because then we spent a lot of time inspecting the countryside
Uh-huh.
around, like South Dakota, all up and down, and where Cody was killed, and the Badlands,
Mhm.
and Wyoming, where the Custer's stand and stuff like that. But not as a tourist.
Yeah.
But just because we lived there, we could take our time. And
What was your favorite spot?
Cody, Wyoming.
Was it? Yeah. Well, tell us about coming to Alaska.
Oh. Didn't Gary say anything about that? Edna?
Doesn't make any difference what they said. I want to know what you said.
Edna wouldn't know, because she...
Yeah, she wasn't on the trip.
Oh, it was...
I asked when I did it, David's interview. I asked him about it, and he said, "Well, I don't remember much." And I said, "Well, what did you ride up here in?" "Well, I think there was a car or a pickup or something." I said, "You don't remember being locked in the back of that pickup for 2 weeks?" "Well, maybe I do."
I wonder if he remembers when they got to Anchorage. No, I'm sure he doesn't.
What happened when we got to Anchorage?
Well, it was so funny because we stopped to eat. But this time, you know, Maureen and Melvin and Dorothy were not with us, and
Mm-hmm.
Nell and I and what? 7 kids.
Something like that, yeah.
And so we'd order 9 bowls of soup or something. You sure you want that many? We had camped out all the way, and it was dirty, and it was mosquito-y and whatnot. And when we got to Anchorage, we decided it was time to get a motel, take baths. There was a convention of some kind. We couldn't find a room. And we looked, and we looked, and we finally found the Mush Inn Motel. She had 1 room, but she wouldn't even talk to us because there was too many of us.
Yeah.
And besides that, it was $35 for 1 person, $55 for a couple. And she said, that's all I've ever had, it's just a couple, so I don't know how to... But now when I was boo-hooing and not really crying, but I guess it sounded like...
Probably pretty close to it.
And because we had been 8 days without a bath, and 8 days with nothing but spam and mosquitoes, and she finally said, okay. But the kids could sleep on the floor in their bedrooms. She wouldn't put any beds in there.
Sure.
Which that was okay with us, and that was okay with the kids.
Sure.
But by this time, the kids were sound asleep in that little old Dodge, my Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
The boys...
Only it was a Plymouth.
I guess it was.
Yeah.
No use me saying things. Anyway. The boys were on the bottom, and then the girls were in the front seat with us, or on top, for the purpose of your kids. David, Andy, Joyce, Jerry, Tony, Shirley, Danny, Gary Lynn.
Yeah.
That's 8. And we thought Jerry was being a kid at that time. He was big, but he was still a kid. So we went in and began taking the kids out of the car. And get one in and stick him into the bathtub and put him down and go get another kid. Finally we got down to David. And he was so sound asleep we weren't ready for him yet. So we left him. Went ahead and got the rest of them all bedded down, and then went out, and he was still just dead to the world. So we decided we'd just leave him. He'd get sleep better there, and then bathe him in the morning and
Yeah.
whatnot. Went back in the motel, and a bed! Just about 5:30, I woke up. And I realized the door was opening. It was only opening like that, and it was slammed. So I raised up, and I realized what it was. It was David. So I went over to the door, and he was total tears.
Yeah.
Because he thought we'd go off and left him, and he
Yeah.
didn't care. He was just trying to find somebody.
I think it was harder on him being away from Mother than it was any of the rest of the kids.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a tough time. Well, here comes somebody. So,
Oh, that's,
you want to continue, or do you want to pick it up another time?
hmm?
Do you want to continue, or do you want to pick it up another time?
Well, I don't care.
Okay, let's continue then.
We can pick it up some other time. But I've said about everything that I know to say.
Okay, now, if you were talking to my great-great-grandkids a couple of 100 years from now, what kind of advice would you give them?
Oh, I'll have to think about that a little bit. Of course, the only thing I can say is love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and body. Put yourself in His hands and everything you do, put Him first. Whether you're alive in 1828 or 5006, what comes next? 2000 and 3000?
3,000. Well, I want my kids to know that I love you very much, and I'm grateful to you and indebted to you, because at a time when I was little and didn't have a dad and my mom was gone a lot, you stepped in and
I babysit you. And
you babysat me, but not only did you babysit me, you loved me and took care of me.
You're my kid.
That's-
When you fell off the bed and had
Yep.
snot running down your nose.
Yep. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I want your kids to know you're pretty special for me, too.
Well, thank you.
Because even remembering, I don't have to remember that.
Yep.
You're still special.
We better quit or we'll both cry for a while now.
So during the World War II, so I don't know, it would have been 46, 47, maybe, no, 44. Marguerite and Marvin were living at the ranch, but then Marvin came in to Gallup and worked in a war because they needed the money. They needed
Right.
And so Mother was living, Mother and Daddy and us kids were living in Gallup. And we would go out to the ranch every weekend to help fix fence or do whatever needed to be done, because Marguerite was out there by herself. And I was just learning to drive. I wasn't old enough yet to get a license, but I was driving. Mother would let me drive. It was 60 miles out there, 30 miles to through
Yeah.
pavement, 30 miles to the ranch, gravel,
Bad gravel.
washboard.
Yeah.
We'd been doing that, and I'd drive out, or I'd drive one way. Mother'd hold half a dozen kids on her lap, or there was Gary and Jim, me and Topsy, and whoever else happened to be going to the ranch. Anyway, one time coming back, I was driving, and I really thought I was doing a good job, but I was just driving along. Jim and Gary were in the back of the pickup with their dogs. A dog. I don't remember why we had that dog, whether it belonged to the kids or what. But on the gravel, clattering. Jim, Gary, come out! Gary, come out! Well, I slammed on the brakes. I thought it was my fault because I was driving right or whatever. We run back there, Mother, of course, just run back there and grab him. Everything was gone off his face except bone. Blood. The little capillaries under your skin were oozing blood. And his blood was coming out of his ears, his eyes, his mouth, his chest. Oh, he was a terrible mess. And I knew it was my fault, and I knew he was going to die, and I knew I had to drive because Mother had to hold him. But I couldn't drive. All I could do was stand there and cry and feel bad about it. And, but we finally stopped at Ruth and Nass's, and she got some towels and a blanket and something to stem the blood. And then I don't remember taking him to the hospital. Probably Ruth drove Mother and Gary. Because I don't think I could have driven in town.
Right.
But anyway, I was still that night. I got to go to the hospital, and of course he was wrapped up, but he was so swelled, everything. You couldn't see his face or anything because there was bandages all around it. but his head was, and his ears were sticking out because they were all swelled, and his hands, he couldn't bend his fingers, but he didn't have any broken bones anywhere. And he went ahead and healed.
Well, no, I don't think there was anybody figured it was your fault, because I'd heard the story of him falling out of the pickup a lot, but I never knew you were driving.
It couldn't have been my fault because
Jim didn't fall out.
I'm driving near the back of the pickup.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wasn't going like that or anything.
Sure.
The dog knocked him out. Or he just plain
Yeah.
fell out. But
Yeah.
I do remember how ugly, the stress of
Yeah.
seeing my little brother there, nothing but bone, because all the flesh is gone.
Well, it's a wonder any of us survived, because we all used to ride in the back of the pickup from Gallup to the ranch. And that...
Can't you imagine? Some of the do-gooders saw us.
Oh, they'd throw us all in jail. Give us to the liberals so we'll be safe.
Yeah. That's like when Topsy pushed me off the horse and broke my arm.
I didn't know about that either.
Well, we'd gone down to get down in the hardpan flats below the house,
Mm-hmm.
getting on old duty. And she set me up on the back end of the horse, and then she was going to jump up, and she couldn't get her leg over and around me. Move back, move back, move back, move back.
Take another step back.
Crush. Look the sun.
Oh dear.
So then she took me up to Mother, and
Yeah.
of course I blamed Totsy, but Mother wouldn't go for that.
Yeah.
It wasn't Totsy's fault. But I see these kids don't dare ride a bicycle without a
Yeah,
helmet.
yeah,
Nobody ever said anything about catching myself.
yeah.
And then the doctor said it, but I don't know, a couple of days. Of course, that's been so long ago now, it seemed like it was just a couple of days, but it probably was more or less than that. It wasn't healing right, and he had to re-break it. I remember that very plain. I could just see him staring on my,
Yeah.
like you would break a piece of wood,
Mm-hmm.
you put it over something like that. And
Mm.
I don't know what he didn't re-break it. He probably just said that to me just to...
Well, I know they considered re-breaking my arm when I was in the hospital for so long, getting all the penicillin shots and everything, because it wasn't healing right. But bless old Dr. Anthony, he can walk on water as far as I'm concerned. The specialist in Albuquerque wanted to cut my arm off. They said it was done for.
I was there, remember?
Well, I didn't remember whether you were there or not,
Very well.
but I remember Dad saying, like hell you are.
Those doctors in Anchorage,
Yeah.
Albuquerque, just insisted on it.
Yeah.
Anthony just...
Yeah.
We can save it.
Yeah, we can fix that. No, I think the Lord's got a special place reserved for Dr. Anthony. And isn't Tony named after Dr. Anthony to some extent? I mean, wasn't that part of the impetus to naming Tony Anthony? Your son?
Jim's best friend was Tony who? One of the kids that was born at Raymond,
Okay.
they went to school together. Ashcroft.
Okay, yeah, yeah. All these years I thought you was just honoring Dr. Anthony.
We laughed about him. Well, it's named after Tony, but it's pretty good because he's kind of named after the doctor also.
Yeah, yeah.
But we didn't stress that.
Sure, sure. All right. Before we quit, tell me what you remember about Marvin.
What I remember about Marvin?
Yeah.
I don't really remember an awful lot about him. until he was pretty sick.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't remember him doing very much except branding the calves. And here I am holding a calf, and here's its little legs and little feet with the branding iron. And Margaret did the vaccination.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what Daddy did. I don't think he was even around. Yeah, Daddy did the roping. And then us kids,
Did the flanking.
yeah. And he used to give me a bad time. I'd ride with him. There was on a different horse, of course. And he had a couple of horses that had little gaits that were like you could trot along, and I couldn't do that because my old horses wouldn't. So then I'd get tired. And he said, well, you just stay here and do sunflowers. He loves me, he loves me, he loves me. Oh, I don't have anybody.
Who are we talking about here?
You never know. Well,
Yep.
make you a crown of...
Well, I remember him as having a pretty good sense of humor, but he could just scare the snot out of a little kid. And I remember him being just a crackerjack cowboy. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, he scared me till had a sliver in my finger. Come here, I'll fix that. I'll get that out. And he pulled out his knife, and it was about that big.
Yeah.
Come on, I'll get that. And I could just see him just get the finger. Drinking coffee, and I remember sitting at the table drinking coffee because I wasn't a coffee drinker then, and I thought that weirdest thing is drinking so much coffee. That's just old blood stuff. But
Then you learned how to drink coffee. And now you understand.
I would think a sip of his cup every once in a while that had so much cream and sugar in it, but it was cream and sugar